There is a small brown bottle in nearly every American bathroom. It costs about $4. Your mother kept one on the shelf. Your grandmother kept one too. And you have probably dabbed it on a scrape or an insect bite a dozen times without once stopping to wonder where it came from. What almost no one realizes is that the plant inside that bottle grows wild and free across half of this country. It is a scraggly little shrub you have walked right past in the woods without a second glance. And the stranger part is this. The cheap bottle on your shelf is missing the one thing that made the plant worth using in the first place, and no one ever put that on the label. Picture a forest in New England in late autumn. The oaks have dropped their leaves. The maples have gone bare and brown. And one shrub is doing something no other plant in North America dares to do. It is blooming. Thin, ribbon-like yellow flowers, opening in October and November, right when everything around them is shutting down for the winter. When its seed pods finally dry, they split open and fire their seeds as far as 30 feet across the forest floor, like tiny cannons going off in the cold. This is witch hazel. The early colonists found it almost eerie. The name has nothing to do with witches. It comes from an Old English word, witch, meaning a branch that bends, because settlers cut the forked limbs and used them as dowsing rods to search for water underground. But long before any colonist arrived, the native peoples of the eastern woodlands already knew exactly what this shrub could do. They cut the bark and the young twigs, simmered them in water, and pressed the dark liquid onto cuts, onto bruises, onto sore muscles, onto swelling and insect bites. The Oneida, the Mohegan, and dozens of other nations carried this knowledge for generations. And the medicine was real. The active compounds are called tannins, natural astringents that live in the bark and the twigs. Tannins gently tighten and calm irritated skin. That is not folklore, that is chemistry. By the 1840s, that knowledge reached a pharmacist named Theron Pond. In 1843, Pond was running a modest shop in Utica, New York, when he grew friendly with a medicine man from the nearby Oneida nation. The Oneida man showed him how to make the old remedy from witch hazel bark. Pond was captivated. He spent the next few years refining it into a stable liquid, and in 1846 he began selling it under the name Golden Treasure, promoted for burns, bruises, sprains, sore throats, and insect stings. People loved it. But here is the detail that got lost along the way. The remedy was never Pond's invention. It was Oneida knowledge, handed to him freely. Pond's name went on the bottle. The name of the Oneida healer who taught him was never written down. We do not know it to this day. Think about that for a moment. A remedy that would one day build a global brand, and we cannot name the person who gave it away. Pond died in 1852. The company he started did not. It grew into the Pond's Extract Company, then simply Pond's, the cold cream and beauty brand your mother likely kept on her dresser. Today, Pond's belongs to Unilever, one of the largest consumer goods companies on Earth, sold in shops on nearly every continent. All of it traces back to a remedy an Oneida healer once shared with a shopkeeper in upstate New York. Connecticut, 1866. A minister named Thomas Newton Dickinson looked at that humble shrub and saw an industry. Dickinson opened a distillery in the town of Essex and began boiling witch hazel twigs on a scale no one had attempted before. Within a few years, he had nearly 10 production sites scattered across the state. When Dickinson died, his two sons split the business in half and promptly turned on each other. They built two rival companies, both called Dickinson's Witch Hazel, one in Essex and one in East Hampton. feuding for decades over the family name. Nothing sells a product quite like two branches of the same family refusing to speak to one another. The plant became so famous that in 1916, Thomas Edison himself sent a letter to the Dickinson Company recommending a man for a job. By the 1980s, even the famous Dickinson name had slipped out of the family's hands. One branch was sold to investors, then to a German pharmaceutical company called Merz, which moved most of the operation south to North Carolina. The old Essex distillery shut its doors in 1997. Nearly all the witch hazel you can buy today comes from one place. One plant in East Hampton, Connecticut, called American Distilling, is now the only large commercial supplier left anywhere in the world. It runs around the clock, every single day of the year, with 10 stills feeding 10 tanks that hold 25,000 gallons each. Crews still walk the Connecticut woods cutting wild witch hazel brush by hand, just as they did 100 years ago. One corner of New England now supplies the entire planet. And here is where the story turns. The version you have heard, the one printed on the label, is not the full picture. The process that made witch hazel cheap and easy to bottle was leaving its most useful ingredient behind. When Dickinson and the others industrialized witch hazel, they made it by steam distillation. They steam the twigs and the bark, capture the vapor, and bottle the clear liquid that condenses out of it. It is shelf-stable. It smells clean. It pours like water. Pay attention to this next part, because it explains everything you think you know about that bottle. The tannins, the actual active compound, the thing that makes witch hazel do anything at all, do not travel with the steam. They stay behind in the leftover plant material. So the witch hazel water you pour out contains almost no tannins. What gives the drugstore version its tightening astringent sting is mostly the alcohol added as a preservative, usually around 14%. In plain terms, the famous astringent is doing its job largely because it is alcohol, not because it is witch hazel. One man saw this coming all the way back in 1850. A maker named Henry Thayer refused to distill the plant at all. He understood that distillation stripped out the very compounds that made witch hazel worth using, so he prepared his extract a different way to keep the tannins in. That looked like a small, stubborn choice at the time. It wasn't. More than 170 years later, his name is still on the witch hazel that actually holds on to its active ingredients. None of this was ever a secret. The United States Pharmacopoeia, the official body that sets drug ingredient standards in this country, even places a limit on how much tannin a witch hazel product is allowed to contain, because too much can irritate the skin. Witch hazel is still one of the very few plant remedies the government officially recognizes as an over-the-counter drug. The irony is that the version on the shelf is the stripped-down one. The real medicine was always in the bark. The industry simply built itself around the watered-down version, and most people never knew there was a difference. So what did we actually lose? Not the plant. The plant never went anywhere. Witch hazel still grows wild across more than 20 states, from Maine down to Georgia and west toward the Mississippi River. It is one of the easiest shrubs in the eastern woods to recognize once you know the trick. Look for broad, oval leaves with wavy, scalloped edges, and look for the one shrub still in flower in late fall, with thin yellow ribbons for petals. The old way was simple, and it is the way the Oneida taught Theron Pond before any of this became a business. You take the bark and the young twigs, and you simmer them gently in water to draw the tannins out. What you get is a dark, mild astringent you can cool and dab on minor skin irritation, on bruises, on insect bites, as people on this continent have for hundreds of years. No distillery and no brand name, just the shrub and a pot of water, the way your great-grandmother might have done it. So go back to that small brown bottle in your bathroom. It still has its uses, but it is a faint echo of something much older and much richer. A remedy an Oneida healer once gave away for free, repackaged and thinned down until the original was forgotten. The shrub is still out there, blooming every November while the rest of the forest sleeps. If you want to keep uncovering the real stories behind the things hiding in plain sight, subscribe to Nature's Lost Vault, and the next time you walk through a cold autumn wood, you will know exactly what you are looking at.